Hey, Van of Valor fans, we're here with two amazing individuals, Rick and Chad, and we're at Kraken Customs in Fayetteville, which is the second spot Chad opened. Here they do custom art like you see behind us. They could wrap a vehicle. They do all kinds of custom work on the vehicles itself, lifting, rims, things like that. And right down the road, a half a mile from here, they have a tattoo studio, a barber shop, a shirt and print shop, embroidery, and I'm trying to think what else I saw in there, but in a whole amazing array of stuff. So for all of your needs, come here, and we'll let him explain that a little bit. But before we get to that, we've got two people from two different parts of the world, two different upbringings. So what we're going to do is let them work off each other, and I'll be here to sort of keep them apart. So whoever wants to start, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Can't keep us apart.
All right, well, where are you from?
I was born in Belize. Yeah, you went diving there. I was born in Belize, raised in Jersey City. I lived there with my mom, my dad, my stepdad, and my sisters. Became an EMT, joined the Army, volunteered all the way through, Army Ranger, a year in Korea, then SF, and then pretty much got out the Army, and we can get in more detail about that, but that's just the base foundation of myself, you know, and pass it off to Chadrick.
I know you're in Mexico at the time, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I grew up in the foster system, so I really didn't have anybody who loved me. So nobody wanted to adopt me because I was too bad of a kid, and I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I had a pretty rough upbringing, which is why I think I ended up going to the special operations route, to be honest with you. I think it was like, since I was a kid, I was just kind of grown into it, like forced into situations where I had to find a way out of, and magically it just directed me and navigated me to that career field.
Yeah.
Obviously Rick had people that loved him when he grew up, but it doesn't make sense because he should speak Spanish and he does not, which is really funny for his wedding. So I ended up being the officiant for his wedding, right? And his mom came down and we went out to eat.
Yeah.
And we were talking in Spanish about him, like talking crap. And he's like, "What are you saying about me? Stop it." You know, that was just really funny. But
you're fluent?
I am, yeah. Yep.
Now, he reminds me of my first wife, because she's very fluent too. And whenever we go to Spanish places, they look at me, but then the next person next to me is answering them. And she's as white as him too, so you know, maybe it's just a traumatic thing in my life I can't get over.
At survival school,
Possibly.
did he remind you of your wife?
No.
Okay,
We didn't go.
just-
No,
you gotta
survival
stay
school.
warm, you gotta stay warm.
No,
Hey.
we went way off the beaten
Way
path
off
there.
the beaten path.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so you both find yourself in the Army.
Yeah.
And you went straight SF or no?
No. I actually joined the military because my recruiter lied to me and said I could wrestle for the Army. I did not have that in my contract. But either way, I ended up wrestling for the Army in my first duty station in Baumholder, Germany. My battalion sergeant major ended up being the basically the base wrestling coach. So we wrestled all over Germany against everybody. So it was really cool. And my goal was to be an Olympian. To be honest, I was pretty good at wrestling. I didn't end up making the Colorado team to go for the Olympic standby or trial teams.
Obviously not that good.
I'm still pretty good. But so my prize for my sergeant major for not making the all Army team was go to Ranger school.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's questionable. But continue on.
That he was at Ranger school?
Yeah, his class numbers don't match, but it's okay.
all right. So just for anybody out there in this world, you know, obviously I love Rick, but sometimes he's not so smart, right? So everything with class numbers in Ranger school is off of the fiscal year. He calls it the physical year. I try to correct him all the time. He doesn't listen to me. The fiscal year, right? So I was class 0202, meaning I graduated in December of 2001, right?
Okay.
So that was the second class of the fiscal year, not physical.
Whatever.
So yes.
I graduated 0801, which means August of 2001. So if he's telling me that he graduated December of 2002, then he should be 1202. And that's the way things work. It makes sense, right? August 801.
Yeah, 0202. I graduated in 2001.
So then he should have graduated in February, not December.
And what he's not accounting for is best Ranger competition and all the other stuff. So those months disappear. So,
But 9/11 happened when you were in Ranger school.
no, right before I went to Ranger school. I was literally going to Ranger school as 9/11 happened.
Whoa.
And
Yeah.
9/11, I graduated August 10th, 2001. So I graduated a month before 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
Where were you both?
I was in the 1st Ranger Battalion.
Okay.
Yep.
I was in Germany. I just came back from my first tour to the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, FIROM. And, you know, as soon as that starts happening, I'm ready to get out of there. I'm going to Ranger school, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, 9/11 happens. We're in a field problem, actually, when it happened.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what, to be honest with you, like, I'm really naive when it comes to geography and states and capitals and buildings and structure. I didn't know anything about it. So they're like, oh, did you see what happened? I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And I didn't know anything about New York, really, because I'd never been there.
I'm more thinking about the mind of the cadre when you're in school.
Oh,
It
yeah.
must have been like,
Yeah, well, I wasn't in Ranger school when that happened. I was heading to Ranger school.
okay.
Like, literally, I flew out the Monday after all that stuff happened.
Shit.
Yeah.
Did you talk about anything other than that when you were in Ranger school, or you just knew you were going?
No, listen, I wasn't ready for Ranger school. I was dumb. I was 19 years old,
Okay.
18 or 19 years old. I was just a young kid. I didn't even know what Ranger school was. I went to PRC and just nugged through that. I didn't even know how I passed. But I ended up, there were 6 of us who went to Ranger school, and I was the only one that came back with a tab back to Germany.
And
It
then
was pretty cool.
after that, or
No, I never went to Ranger Battalion.
okay.
I was the infantryman.
Yeah.
Usually those guys start out 11 Bravo, and then they get a RIP contract or a rope contract in basic training.
Yeah.
And they said it to us. I just didn't know anything about it, so I was just wanting to wrestle. So
Yeah.
I really didn't care anything about it. Otherwise, I probably would have went that route and seen what Ranger Regiment was all about.
Yeah.
That was not in my path. But I ended up going to the 82nd and doing some amazing stuff with some amazing people. And they're the true war fighters of the country. I'm not even lying to you. They're legit dudes, man.
Fort Bragg? All of them?
Yeah, all of them are here at Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne Division.
Yeah.
Some amazing people there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can sleep well at night knowing that the 82nd Airborne's on watch.
Boom.
I
That's
agree.
actually the
I
same.
agree.
It is the same. I read a billboard every day. Every time I meet an 82nd guy, I'm like, I sleep so well at night knowing you guys are on watch. You know? So, but for me, on the other hand, I volunteered. Because I didn't know anything about the Army. The only movie I probably watched was Rambo. I did a Vietnam traveling exhibit when I was younger with Youth Corps, AmeriCorps. But then it was like volunteering, like, oh, who wants to go airborne? I'm like, oh, I'll do that. Look at that hat. That hat looks cool. And then Ranger guy comes in with the real black beret. He's like, who wants to go Rangers? Like, oh, that sounds cool. Sign me up. Look at that hat. And then it's like 30-mile ruck marches. I'm like, oh, what did I sign up for?
Yeah.
And then end up there, I was a forward observer. So I wasn't an infantryman. It's kind of like
Fister.
it's a fister. It's an infantryman with a little bit extra more brain power. And that's what that is
Not
right
true.
there.
Hey,
You
all
know,
you fisters know the deal. Stop
you
it.
know the deal. You gotta control. You gotta figure out where your troops are, where you are, and then control air. You know, so as we know, the fisters are a little bit smarter. So yeah, so I did that for about 4 years there. Then moved on to Korea, and then from Korea went SF because I realized how the regular army was. And let me tell you, the regular army, the 82nd was like Korea. Then good lord, yeah, oh gosh, that was so bad. But yeah, so eventually I decided to go SF. And
Where were you in Korea?
Camp Greaves.
Okay.
So it was actually good for me to go up there because when I was in Ranger Battalion, I partied a lot, got in trouble, and then got kicked out of there. So it was like where they sent all their rejects from Ranger Battalion that get in trouble.
Korea?
You go to Korea or you start a battalion in the 82nd.
Okay.
So that's where you go. But Korea, like you could start a Ranger Battalion in Korea with the amount of people that go there.
Yeah.
And lucky for me, I went up to Camp Greaves, which is over the bridge by the DMZ.
Okay.
And so there was nothing up there. And you had to be home. And this was after 9/11 too. You had to be home you had to be across the bridge by 11. If you weren't across the bridge by 11, you were done. You're getting in trouble. And then who knows what else was going to happen. But so the discipline level was there to where I continued to work out. I knew more than as a Ranger Fister leaving there and going to Korea. I knew more or as much as my E7 did. And he was at a battalion level.
Yeah.
But he never experienced. If you grew up in the 82nd Regular Army as a fister, all you're dealing with is artillery and mortars, and you're just imagining all the other stuff. So we've dealt with artillery, mortars, you know, and then your air assets, just stacking air and still little birds, DAPs, AC-130. You know, I've controlled all those in peacetime, and you know, to go there and actually know that and teach that on a different level, they were like, wow, okay. So continued that on, and then boom, decided to go SF. And you know, the train up for me was like, oh, I'm going SF next week. I need to train. And then I get on the treadmill. I was like, that is boring. I was like, I'll just wait it out, see what happens. And then I go, and eventually get to third group in 2005. And you know, and I met Chad in 2006, where he came to work for me.
Jesus Christ,
And,
here we go again.
You know, we're going on this trip up to Virginia to learn how to fly Ravens.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to become pilots. Right.
Okay.
So Chad shows up as an E7, and I'm an E6.
Long range observers, right?
But yeah, pretty much. But I was an E6, but I already did one rotation with group. Chad was an E7 who's probably done multiple rotation, but not with group. Yeah. So we have what we call TIG, time in group. Doesn't count about your rank.
Yeah.
So he realized that I was in charge, and I said, hey, sit back and relax. I'm gonna run this show right here.
All right, so this is where we're gonna time it out, right? So let's call it what really happened, right? So I'm the senior NCO, and the sergeant major comes to me and he pulls me in his little office, like, hey, I need you to make sure that you keep these guys squared away, right? Like, you are the senior ranking guy here. You're in charge of this. Yeah. I'm like, roger that. So I'm still doing parade rest. He's like, yeah, stop that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, roger, sergeant major, got you, you know? I'm brand new to SF. All I knew was the 82nd Airborne Division and all that other jazz, right? Yeah. So I get in there and I'm like, all right, we got to do a convoy brief. Let's do this, you know? So gathered everybody up who's going up there with us. And this one dude is walking an ice chest up, you know? And I'm like, what the hell? You know? So I'm like, all right, hey guys, you know, blah, blah, blah. All you hear is, he opens a bottle of beer. And I'm like,
not me.
Not him.
Okay.
And I'm like, yo, what the hell, bro? Like, this is... He's like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about, bro. I'm like, all right, so this is gonna go ahead and stop. So anyways, we're driving up there. I'm like, ah, man, I got misfits everywhere. Yeah. They expect me to like corral these fucking cats up, these tigers, you know? And I'm like, I can't control these dudes. And I'm driving, and all of a sudden, like, these bottles are flying out of the van in front of me and hitting the windshield. And it's like, what the hell? Hey, man, fucking clean that shit off. These dudes were pissing in bottles and throwing them out the van to the next van.
We're not throwing the bottles. We're throwing the pee out because we didn't want to stop because we were on a time crunch. Yeah. And we didn't want to be late. So we made use of what we got. All right.
Throwing piss bottles out the vehicle.
And as per guidance, it was like, as long as the driver is not drinking, we're all good. And this is what Mr. Jeremy Nelson said to me. I go, I don't think that's how it works here. He goes, oh, all we got to do is cross the border of North Carolina and it's legal in Virginia. I was like, I don't know, but I believe him. Yeah. I was like, let's go.
I mean, so that was just like the very first portion of it. But then we get up there, and then Mr. Influential Rick here, you know, freaking convinces everybody to wear blue jeans, combat boots, and our black hoodies from our battalion. And on the back of it, looks like the stars and bars, like the Harley Davidson symbol. You know, it says, we do bad things to bad people, right? Well, he convinces everybody to wear this uniform, essentially, and we're going to go out and get in fights in town. Okay. And it happened. Yeah. There were numerous fights. Yeah. And everybody was like covering the bad people up with like a different thing, you know? Yeah. It's like, we do bad things to your mom. or
bad moms.
Bad moms. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is not how we're supposed to be up here representing our prestigious group.
Were you in a Navy town? Were you in North?
Oh yeah.
No, we were AP Hill.
AP Hill, Virginia.
AP Hill. So there was nothing up there.
Okay.
But we went to downtown Virginia.
Yeah. Richmond, Franklin.
It was okay, you know. But we're just young kids at the time.
I was gonna say, if it was Norfolk, that's
we're just young kids.
Navy, right?
I guess. But no, we went to some questionable bars, places we really probably didn't belong.
Literally crossed the railroad tracks, and then the whole scenery changed. There was people on horses.
What? Yeah.
Yes, and that's how they would corral the people at 3 a.m.
Yeah, with the horses.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's just a real thing.
In Richmond?
Yeah.
Yeah. The moral of the story is, though, we became pilots.
We did become pilots.
We
Yeah,
were
Raven
certified.
I could pretty much fly that.
Yep, pretty much.
No big deal.
Yep, felt like I could launch that and just boom, watch it go.
I'm joking. That's a C5 up there in the air right now.
C-17.
Thought it was a C-17. It's a C5.
It's a C-17.
It's got winglets. I think it's a 17.
Yeah, it's a 17.
Well, it's bigger than a C-130.
More or less a Raven.
It's basically a Raven.
It's just a bigger Raven. That's it.
Yeah.
Raven flies overhead.
So you're both at group together.
Mhm.
Yep.
And do you deploy together? Wait, had either of you been in combat prior to this?
Yes.
Had you? Okay.
Yes.
So this is, you had as well.
Yes, so
Subsequent deployments.
mine was 05, 06 with group. And I went to, my first one was Operation Red Wings, Lone Survivor. And we talk about this because this is going to be the 20th year anniversary of Operation Red Wing, Lone Survivor. And I was in group as Siege Sov Camo guy. He was actually in the 82nd on the ground doing the recovery stuff.
Well, so you were there
So-
together.
But we were in two different units.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and we talk about the deployment, is the 20-year anniversary is coming up in June, and we're trying to put together a reunion for those that was on the ground.
Yeah.
So we're not focusing not on the SEALs, but we're focusing on the CSAR team, the search and rescues, which was the 82nd Rangers, 160th group, and there were some Marines there. So
Okay.
so Chad's in charge of mustering up the 82nd guys, since that's his
I
core.
love his assignment of responsibilities.
And then my buddy's in charge of the group guys, and and it's just trying to bring people together. But one of the things that we
When is this
share,
gonna be?
this is going to be June 28th here in Fayetteville at Max Speed Shop, 3 p.m.
If that applies to you, reach out to one of these guys.
Yes, and we love to have, if you're a part of that operation or you just want some camaraderie and just bring it together, it's good to hear people's story. I know my story from where I did and where I sat. Chad knows the 82nd version story. Our group guys knows that. The Rangers know their side, and all the regular or people out there really know is what they saw on Lone Survivor, which doesn't even cut into the meat and potatoes of the whole rescue mission, and where these guys were on the mountain sucking, Rangers were on the mountain sucking, there were supplies getting dropped off, rolling down the hills to the enemy.
Oh, yeah.
And there's stuff like that didn't get put out. I've heard probably about, I think, 4 other stories since we started the Facebook thing, and guys reaching out to me and saying, hey, this is my version of this. And I was like, oh my God, I want you to come and tell your version. Come and talk about it. We have 2 guest speakers there, but not to say we won't have anybody else get up there and speak and tell their version, or guys can share it. The best form of therapy is reuniting with those that experience the same thing. And that was a big theater then. And to have people from all different branches come together and talk about it, then it's going to be something great, I believe, and that's what I want. And but we share that. We were in the same country, in the same area, and you could start breaking it down, and he'll start to meet guys where they're probably one mountain peak away from each other, doing the same thing, trying to rescue an American, and just being there. So that's, to me, that's the kind of camaraderie we share.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. And then now you're at group together. Are you spinning up for another deployment, or?
So we were in 2 different companies. I was in Alpha Company, he was in Charlie Company at the time. So like my first couple of years in group, I was on something called a RAT team. So we were doing the constant deployments, man. 6 on, 6 off, 6 on, 6 off, 6 on, 6 off. We were doing a lot of rotations downrange. So there were guys in the same company that I had no clue who they were. Even though we had both been in the same company for 2-3 years, I didn't even know who they were. So we'd, hey, what's up? Boom, boom, boom. Hey, how you doing? Shake a hand. All right, cool. See you later, bro. But even on your 6 months in the back, you were really doing some leave, some recovery from your last deployment, going to a school to maintain currency for your baseball cards for your ODA.
Yeah.
Trying to get another skill to make yourself deadlier in the fight, right? Yeah. And then leave and then redeployment, or PMT, then leave and then a redeployment. So that was it was in and out, in and out, and in and out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Did you get wounded in that time?
No. I got wounded as an 82nd guy in Iraq.
Feel like talking about that?
Sure. We were in a convoy in Baghdad, so we were at a small little fire base called Camp Falcon, or Fob Falcon, and we were doing our patrols as infantry dudes. Back then, we didn't have armored vehicles. We had sandbags that we would kind of just sit on, and then we called it porcupining out. So everybody like all sticking out of the back of the Humvees. We were doing these routine patrols, man, and at the time I was a team leader, and the Alpha team leader, Finesse, a really good friend of mine, he ends up, and he's right in the Humvee right in front of me too, you know. So he ends up hitting a IED. The vehicle jumps off the ground. Boom, you know, I get on the radio. Back then, I thought Embitters was like a SATCOM. It's not. I didn't know the difference, you know. I was still naive. So I'm like trying to call everybody, like, hey, we got contact, we got hit. Fire starts opening up, man. It was a deliberate ambush. Yeah. All the way across the roofs, down the road, Aldura Road. It just was bad dudes. Yeah. It was bad. It was probably 30 bad dudes on roofs. Just shooting down at us. It was fucking crazy.
Is this daytime?
It was right before dusk. Like this was our last term before we went back to our fire base.
So you see like a wave of tracers coming over you?
It was no, they didn't have tracers.
At all?
No, not really. Huh. In the movies, it's cool that enemies have tracers. They just had bullets.
Yeah.
We had tracers, obviously. We were doing a 3-to-1 ratio, but so you'll see our tracers going out. 24, yeah. So that was actually one of the first times that I got a chance to see who I shot. Yeah. It was pretty cool, you know. These dudes were shooting at us, and I see one, and we had these brand new ACOGs, which probably the rest of the Army had them for years, you know, but they were brand new for us, you know. And they had like a little Bible verse on the side of it. What was that whole thing on the side of the ACOG? It's like a Matthews, something about seeing the light or some stuff.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, they took them off because it was a Christian.
Oh yeah,
Christian.
Sure. We didn't get that one. So it made you feel like a sniper, though.
Oh yeah. So I mean, and this dude was from here to that barbecue grill, and that's just the perfect size for the entire reticle to like take up their entire face. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I shoot the first dude. He falls, and there was 2 guys with him, so there was 3 of them that ran around the corner. And he turns around to help his buddy, and tries to help him up, and I shoot him, and I swear nothing happened. Yeah. I shoot him, and he like starts running, and I'm like, what the hell? Shoot. I put 6 rounds in this guy, and he still was running. Like
he must have been hyped up on something.
No, I think our bullets were shit. I know I put a bunch of holes in the guy because afterwards we did BDA on him, you know. But when all this was happening, out of the corner, another, you know, combatant stepped around the corner with an RPG and shot an RPG. He was trying to hit the Humvee that I was in front of. Yeah. And I swear I watched that thing fly. It's like it was in one of the movies, like Black Hawk Down, where you like see the RPG coming. Yeah. Oh, bro, I seen the RPG coming. It was coming, and I remember I like did this, and it blew up, and then threw shrapnel all down my right side. So we had to wear DAPs back then. I don't know if you know what DAPs are, but anyway, so it threw like shrapnel in my legs, and my side, and my face, and yeah, dude, that was what happened there. We ended up evacuating. Finesse lost like half of his face. Got to the hospital, did our thing, and then that's where the big old octopus tattoo came from. I covered all my scars from the shrapnel.
That drives all of this.
Yeah.
Covers the shrapnel. That's cool.
Yeah, covered all the slices from shrapnel that went in my body, because I don't know what you believe in. You know, you can be Christian, Jewish, it doesn't matter. But, you know, there's a saying in the heathen realm of life that, you know, if you're injured, when you go to the gates, they won't let you pass through. So you got to cover them with tattoos. Huh. You got to cover your scars with tattoos so you don't appear weak for the next life.
Interesting. I know what you mean about the RPG. I've seen it where it's burning at me, and fortunately I'm short, went over my shoulder and injured me and a bunch of other people. But it's like slow enough where you could see it and process it, but too fast for you to really do a whole hell of a lot about it.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
It was the perfect speed in Black Hawk Down when that thing was flying across. You remember that scene, right?
Oh yeah.
It was like I feel like that's exactly what I seen. I was like, oh no, I'm about to die. Yeah. And I just did the knee turn, and that's when they made us wear the Wiley X's, and it saved my eyeball. It saved my eyeball, bro. Yeah. There was literally a piece of metal like stuck. It penetrated through the glass lens and got stuck right here where my eye was. So that would have ripped my eye out. Yeah, easily.
Yeah. Or worse, went into your brain.
Yeah.
What about you? Were you injured on that deployment?
No, mine was a 07-08 deployment. 08, January 26, 2008. I was out there with my ODA. We were clearing this village. We had one team down at the bottom. Well, two guys in the A&A team down clearing the lower part, and we had the high ground. And I'm up there. I'm marking for CAS at this point. So me and my buddy Justin Williams were dropping WP on the backside to mark for CAS. And as I just finished dropping WP, I look over and I have the Viper. I have the Viper and I was lasing, and I lazed this guy. He's like 70 meters in the wood line, and he had a machine gun, and all four of us were standing there. And I was like, boom, I got one. And then it just sprayed us, and everybody hit the deck. But we all four were standing next to each other. And yeah, PKM. And it just hit the deck, and all of a sudden my arm locked up, and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, oh, been shot. And my buddy gets on the radio. He goes, pimp down. And he thought I was playing. So I'm like, pimp down. And then my captain gets on the radio, and he goes, Rick, stop fucking around on the radio. I was like, nope, pretty sure I've been shot. So the pimp down story comes from that. And it's one of our funniest things. And it's something we kind of come together every year and we celebrate. But we celebrate more than just getting shot. We celebrate each other, the camaraderie. And the name of the mission was Harold. And Harold was my black medic. So he comes running over. He's getting shot at. And he leans down and he looks at me. He goes, Rick, you okay? I go, what the fuck, Harold? And he goes, what? I go, he should have shot your black ass because this mission was named after you. He goes, that's what you're going to say to me? I was like, I'm just saying, man. He's like, are you okay? I was like, I'm okay. They got me in my paintball arm, but I'm good. And, and later on, we just tell the story more. And it probably is, now that I think about it, and I've always said it's the best 3 months of my life, and going through that whole situation, like that day, it was just so many funny things happening. But we didn't realize this was Helmand Province, Afghanistan. And we got out of there, took the medevac 2 different landing zones before they finally picked us up. And I'm sucking on a lollipop, fed on a lollipop. I'm passed out. Harold thinks I'm dead, but I'm just drooling off this lollipop. I'm like, this is some good ass lollipop. And we run onto the bird. The bird lands over here. The British guys come running out, trying to pull security, but we've got inner, Afghans got outer, which when the helicopter comes in, all the Afghans that have outer security, they all turn in and just eating their food looking at the helicopter instead of pulling security. And so I run onto the helicopter. I get on the helicopter. There's video of that too. We have short videos of that day, which is great. And then go home and come back home and heal up, try to get back to my team. And I was told, hey, you need to stay here, this and that. So I eventually healed up, got my clearance paperwork from the doctor, brought it to the sergeant major, who didn't want to see it, didn't care. He just wanted me to stay there. So I left his office. I went to my company, saw the company sergeant there. He knew me. And he was like, hey. I was like, hey, my paperwork's here. I'm ready to go. And he was like, well, what did the sergeant major say? I go, he wasn't much for words. Yeah. He's like, oh, okay, well, when do you want to leave? I was like, next thing's smoking, let's go. And so 3 days later, there was a bird leaving, but we were driving from here to Maryland, Germany to, where did we stop at before Afghanistan? Uzbekistan, Manas.
Yeah,
Manas. And boom, so I just was going. I got from Manas to Bagram. There was a flight leaving that evening to Kandahar. Boom, got on that flight to Kandahar. There was a memorial for an Air Force guy that night. I remember I went to it, and they were like, hey, you got a ring flight going to your fire base tonight. And I was like, hell yeah. Nobody knew I was back. Yeah. I left without permission. Yeah. So, so as I'm getting on these birds, before anybody knew I was there, I was already on something smoking out of there. So I was going. I made it back to my fire base. We stopped in Bastion. So Bastion was right outside of my fire base. Mm-hmm. And I was getting off, or we're switching out. My company sergeant major was there along with my buddy Ricky Daring, and they were bringing some prisoners in. And so Ricky looks at me, he goes, oh, what are you doing? I was like, I came back. And my company sergeant major's like, Rick? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you're back? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I wasn't tracking that. I was like, don't worry, nobody really is. And we get on the helicopter, drop me off at File Price, And no, actually, we created our own FOB at that point. It was Musa Calais. We're out in Musa Calais. Did that invasion for like 4th time. And as soon as I get off the helicopter, Justin rolls up on an ATV. He's like, "Oh, Rick, what are you doing here?" I said, "I'm back." He's like, "Man, the generator just died." I said, "Man, I'm about to get back on this helicopter. I ain't playing with you." And boom, we're doing a CA mission the next day. We had some CA people attached to us. And I got in at 3 a.m. The team heard I was there and woke up and we bullshitted. And then the next morning we're getting ready to leave at 8:30 and my team sergeant's like, "Hey, you know you don't have to go." And I was like, "You think I flew all the way back here to not go? So let's go." And we were out pulling missions the next day and stuff like that. And that was how the 3 months just rolled right into it.
So now let's do a timeout on this. All right. Rick broke so many protocols with this. He ended up getting people in a lot of trouble.
No, who got in trouble?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody got in trouble.
Everyone gets yelled at for Rick. I love Rick, but everyone gets yelled at for him. But so many different protocols. So the rear D sergeant major, I'm sure, got yoked up. The NCOIC.
That's what he gets anyway.
That's what he gets, right, for not talking to him. Okay.
Not talking to me. He had me outside his office for 6 hours.
Well, yeah.
You know, I don't drop his name, but I don't like him.
Okay. Well, don't drop his name.
That's why I didn't drop other people's name.
Then now he leaves here, right? Didn't sign out. It's a whole thing because it's accountability thing, right? So then he flies to the next place, and then he gets into Europe, and then you have our LNO in Europe, and I'm sure that he somehow bullshitted his way through that one too. Probably somehow put himself on a manifest that wasn't even supposed to be going anywhere. Caught another flight. I could just picture this dude running around like a little chicken with his head cut off, and how many people that he probably got yelled at because of his actions.
Well, there's 5 of us in Manus, 2 new team guys, myself, and you know all these people. I'll tell you all their names after this. And you know, they say we only got 3 spots going to Bagram. I said, check it out. You 2 don't have a place to be. You know, I can't tell you nothing because you're an E8. And then you got a team, I got a team. So you 2 are staying behind and we're rolling.
So you bogarted and bullied people because they have a certain amount of seats that go into
pretty
theater.
Much.
So he bogarted 2 new kids and they're like, Roger Sergeant, probably
right.
standing up parade rest. Like, damn right, standing up parade rest.
Hey, I wanted to be back with my team. That was it. You know, and then the story comes, it bites me in the ass when I get back. One,
I get both sides.
So I go to the B-23 or SIF companies getting ready to go to Iraq. And so me and Harold walks up to the B-23 Sergeant Major and we say, "Hey, we want to go with you to Iraq." And they're like, "Oh, well, you haven't been to a PMT. Like, we just got back from Afghanistan. What do you mean you haven't been to a PMT?" You know? But that's how much this dude I didn't like, and just the way he talked just got on my nerve. And then he goes, "Well, all right, well, Harold Dahmer, okay, we need a medic," you know. And I was like, "I'm at 18 Echo," you know. He's like, "Murillo." He's like, "Murillo. Oh, Murillo, you're the one who left without telling anybody." I was like, "Oh, yeah.
I guess I did. Oh,
yep."
Imagine that.
He goes, and he's like, I ought to smoke your ass or, you know, file some Article 15. I was like, "I don't know."
So you don't want me to go?
So I was like, he's like, "If you think you're coming with us, then you got your mind all fucked up." I was like, "Well, you know what, Harold, you have a great time. I'm out."
Yeah,
before
man.
he was even thinking about running any other thing. But yeah, who's going to talk to the guy who got shot, you know, multiple times and went back to be with his team? Yeah, I broke some protocols, but see, nobody calls them protocols except E7s from the 82nd. You know, we call it rules or left and right limits. And that's what happened, you know? So I went right back, I came back, and this is where we talk about the healing process of I healed physically, but as the years went on, mentally was not there. So I took the mentality of who's gonna yell at the guy or give the guy shit about going back to the team. And then I started drinking, partying, doing it even more and more and more. And as the years went on, I probably spent, it was 2008, 9 was, we chilled out for 9, and then 10, I did a 3-month rotation. And then 11, same thing, come back, drink, party. Before we leave, we drink, party. When we come back, we drink, party. When you're down there not doing a real, I would say a real mission, you're drinking and partying. So, I mean, we were doing PSD and it wasn't really like anything that serious. But there's so many stories behind that. And then I come back, I drink, get a DUI. You know, I go to AP Hill, you know, and run a PMT out of there. We had a brand new E8 or E8 promotable, and he was getting ready to take over, but I understood how to run shit. So when the colonel and sergeant major came, they were just like, wow, you really can recover from this DUI and do this, and that, because you're doing great out here. Once again, if you take me away from all the elements and you isolate me to where training is, I can be that guy. You know, sometimes a little bit more out of control out there.
And this is the part where they say, not all field soldiers are good garrison soldiers, right?
That's true.
That's a fact.
So he was the typical. Remember, I'm no saint over here, all right? I have my qualms, and what I've done that was stupid. But if you can really wrap your head around, as a leader, if there's any leaders watching this, right? If you could learn how to take your subordinate strengths and their weaknesses and then somehow ball them up and create them into a super soldier, you can do it. If you don't have a good garrison soldier, then keep him out of garrison, send him to schools.
Yeah.
You know, if you know he's gonna be a jackass, and as soon as his hands are empty, the idle hands, man, it's a playground, and it's not a good one.
Yeah.
They will get in trouble.
I'd be offended that you just called me a jackass, but it's okay.
He's not a jackass.
Yeah.
He is.
Ass of jacks. No. So I ended up getting another DUI. I come back after that whole training thing went so well. Get in an argument with my girlfriend, get a DUI. Boom. Now it's get out the Army. We're done with you. And that's it, you know, and this was 2011. So anything you did, you know, to look bad on the regiment, or they felt like they had something else better going on, they were either going to shove it underneath the carpet or they were going to get rid of you. Like, I was gone within 2 months.
Shit.
And it was reduced to E1, other than honorable, SF tab taken away. And it was like, okay, you go to alcohol counseling, check your 2-week block in alcohol counseling, then boom, check out, rather than the follow up and, hey, is this guy good? Is he going to make it? Is he going to make it once he goes out?
Yeah.
What led up to all this? 5 deployments. I could never use the argument of, hey, I got shot and went back without permission. I mean,
But
some people don't like that argument, like if you were E7 from the 82nd. But, you know, but that's that. And that's what I did. And
but to your
no
point,
matter,
you could have walked out the gate and offed yourself like I almost did.
well, yeah, there you go. So,
Yeah.
and I've, you know, I found myself in situations as those times went on, living out on the street. I had some friends, you know, and it was just like couch to couch, party here, we end up here, and just not having a purpose. And people talk about retirement and you get out and you have your benefits, but when you get out abruptly like that, you definitely don't have a purpose. You got to find yourself, and it's the training that SF actually gives you, I believe, that allows some people to learn to survive, fight, SEER school, you know, what you do when you're in this situation, you know, you take your hearts and mind psychology and you say, okay, this is what I need to do. And some people use it for bad, some people use it for good, you know, but when they see the good in you and they understand what type of good person you can be, you just need the right people around you. And I gave this theory to the last 2 people. You have 2 types of people in your life when you get out. You have the people who are angry at getting out themselves and got out on bad terms, or just angry, and then you got people who got out but they're like, okay, well, let me make something of it. And you have those 2 people in your life. This side, I'm running the streets, getting drunk, getting in fights, going to jail. These people is like, okay, well, let's go grab a drink, let's grab some food. What are you going to do next? You know, what are you going to do? What's your positive? And I had those people for, you know, after about 3 years, after my best friend committed suicide, then it was like, okay, I need to figure out something. And then I started surrounding myself with those right people and pushing towards that right side, as opposed to before Barry killed himself, I was on the bad, you know, struggling and doing all that, and then he kills himself, and I'm like thinking it's my fault because I'm not there. I'm too busy messing up my life. Right. So now that's where the transition of my life goes into. Started surrounding myself with good people and just say, hey, what are we going to do next? How are we going to help each other? I think I didn't link up with Chad till like 16 or 17.
Yeah, when I was the first sergeant.
When he was the first sergeant. So I didn't see Chad since 2006 when we went to Raven, because he's been on his own deployment. I've been on, and then I've been doing different things and then messing up. And then I run into Chad again. And one of the missions that we do with my organization is we do parking spaces for veterans and first responders that have passed away. We have 98 parking signs around the country that's very specific to the person that it's dedicated to.
What is that organization called?
So Through Tragedy Comes Light. So my organization is called Through Tragedy Comes Light. We're based off of suicide awareness, suicide prevention. We host a Man 22 suicide awareness run. This is our 10th year of the run. The run will be in Festival Park, September 13th, 2025, 11 a.m. Festival Park here in Fayetteville. This is our 10th year. So it's a bittersweet, but it's a milestone that we're still doing this. And I originally created it in honor of Barry Barker after his first year of passing. And then the sign dedication was also created March, after his passing. And we've got 98 signs that are specifically dedicated to people. So when I saw Chad again, Chad said, hey, he saw my signs. He was like, hey, I want to do a sign. And while we talked, and then I went to Texas. 3 months later, I go to Texas. I'm in Texas that Thursday, and Chad calls me. He said, hey, you remember that sign dedication we talked about? I said, oh, yeah, we could do it. He's like, yeah, well, the family's in town next week. I was like, oh, I'm in Texas till Sunday. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, well, I really want to do it Tuesday. And I was like, no, can't. What?
We did it.
Yeah, we made it happen. Yeah. We made it happen. And that's when we clicked back and we started hanging out, working. And like I said, Chad is one of those positive influence on the right-hand side, especially once he got out. And, then I think we didn't talk for about a year or two after the sign dedication until you got out, and then clicked up, and then Cracking Skulls, and then the organization was already doing. So boom, we just came together, and now it's like Ebony and Ivory, and it's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Right.
Who's Ebony? Who's Ivory?
We leave that up to play.
Okay.
He's the one he's the one that speaks bilingual. I know English, so I know.
So, and then another thing. So to caveat what he's saying right here, right? Listen, most military dudes you encounter, they could either be amazing people or amazing criminals. It's all the choices that you make in life that identify exactly what you're going to become. But every one of you guys out there is capable of doing something far good or far bad. And it's just our job to police each other up and try to keep each other on the right track. And try to be productive members of society instead of the opposite, So that's your challenge.
That's it.
To that point, do you employ, or is that an unofficial criteria in your hiring process?
No, that's illegal.
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
I realized that when I said it.
So yeah, once you said that, I was like, yeah, that's actually against labor laws, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, so
that's true. Good point.
I have many veteran employees.
Yeah.
But it is not a criteria by any way or fashion.
Yeah.
It's just by coincidence they find themselves drawn to my company.
I got you.
And I'll be honest with you, most of my employees are misfits.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah. Every one of them has something wrong, or something as how I met them, or somehow I brought them in. They're misfits of some sort.
You should look at your life. Why do you attract those type of people?
I don't know. Look at you.
I'm just saying.
You're here too.
I know.
Yeah. It's because
I don't work for you though. You work for me.
That's the problem. Is I'm a fixer. I've done so much wrong in my life. I feel like the way I can, make up for my wrongdoings is by fixing other people and giving them a sense of purpose and trying to keep them on the right track. Look at Flip.
Yeah.
Prime example. He needs some guidance and purpose and motivation,
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Well, I definitely heard you, Rick, earlier when you said this Special Forces has given you the tools to survive in the worst environments. So after 3 years out on your own on the streets, what would you say to someone who doesn't have those skills? Just a fob-dwelling sailor or a high school senior about to graduate considering enlisting. What would you tell that person? What advice would you have to prepare themselves for what could possibly come? Because
I would say, one, you have to look within yourself. And one thing I always tell people is help me, help you, help yourself, right? And then take a look at people around you. Everybody wants someone to look up to, a mentor, someone that can help guide them, or just like I said, a mentor or a leader. And instead of picking one person, pick multiple people That way you have multiple people to look at and say, all right, this person's doing this person's doing. Not everybody's doing the same thing, but everybody's leading in a positive way. Yeah. Look at those people. So find more than one mentor or more than one leader, and you know, and just do that. You know, because if you're looking at someone that doesn't have the experience and wasn't benefited with the experience that we have, those life experience, and you talk about a kid coming out of high school, he definitely doesn't have that. So he needs to pick those leaders. He needs to pick those mentors that's going to be there and just say, all right, now I see what Chad's doing, I see what Rick's doing, I see what you're doing, you know, all right, you know, I take a piece from each of them, and then now I create my own self, and here I am, and that's where we should be, you know. Everybody's one decision away from becoming a Rick Murillo, you know, back then, or Rick Murillo right now, and that's where it's at, you know. Since then, I've graduated college, got my SF tab reinstated, commercial dive, married, you know, started a welding business, which I sell more t-shirts and apparel than I do welding. But, you know, but
it's funny because I asked him to weld some stuff. And he's like, yeah, I don't know.
I was like, I said, I
got
can find you somebody,
bro.
I can find you somebody. Kind of busy right now, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, and when I do the public speaking, we talk about resiliency. You know, and we go into the public speaking, and when I get introduced, I get introduced with all those military accolades that I've accomplished, because people are like, whoa. And then when I start to talk about the bad stuff and how it went wrong, it just shows you that none of those military accolades matters. It's actually what you learn behind those things. You know, most people earn awards and recognition just because they were standing at the right place at the right time. But rather than the physical training and the experience, life experience, combat experience, everything, that's what helps you move on to the next level and, you know, better where you need to be in life.
Got it. You heard it right here from Rick. And any final things? First Sergeant, you've led good and bad soldiers. You've led it all.
Why are you pointing at me?
Good call.
He said
good soldier and bad. It's yours to choose, but and what would you leave with people?
I'll say it like this, and I still learn from them. Our second and third order effects from everything you do in life. Life's about choice. You can choose to do right or choose to do wrong. When it's all over, you have to deal with what you chose. And this also goes out for the military leaders out there. Your current duty position and status will not last forever. And I say that to you because I want you to remember that you're a person, and the individual that you're about to punish or take everything away from them, for whatever reason, whatever they did, right, wrong, or indifferent, will have second and third order effects as well. Tying into that, I had a soldier that they were trying to revoke his Special Forces tab. And he told me, First Sergeant, if they take my tab, I'm going to kill the commander. He was serious, 100% serious. Because once you strip that from him, he had nothing else, right? Because all his whole career, he had grown to that point to become this cream of the crop, and all of a sudden you're going to take that away from him. So I went to the commander and shut the door. Said, hey, sir, I need to give you a heads up. You know, I have a scenario. I have a soldier that if you revoke his tab, he's going to kill you. He's going to murder you. And he looked at me like, are you fucking serious? And I'm like, yeah, I am. You know, I'm not saying that you need to account for this during your decision making, but I'm letting you know that your final actions here are going to dictate how his life goes on from this point forward. So just learn how to utilize empathy and be empathetic with your decisions, and just be a great leader, because what you are today is not what you will be tomorrow.
All right, you heard from the best. Any last words from you?
Rangers lead the way.
80-second reply?
Hey, all the way.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yep.